So I'm not talking about a child who's chronically poor and a recession arrives. I'm talking right now about the child today who in a recession is going to be poor. The recession will end, whatever the research tells us is right, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. The child who's in poverty is not going to get out of it in 3 years. In fact, that poverty will endure probably another 5 years. And the costs are prohibitive. The estimation is that the 3 million children nationally in poverty cost approximately $22 billion per year. So even if you disliked children, which no doubt that's not the case, you wouldn't be at this meeting, but even if you dislike children, the point is that if we don't protect children right now, they're going to stay poor after the recession ends, and those costs to our state are going to be prohibitively high. So where we can hold children harmless and do what we need to do now, we need to. So what are smart investments? Given the facts and the cost of poverty, what do we do now? One area that we would recommend at the Commission is that we look at what costs and ways to reverse this. Instead of taking a budget and just taking 10% or 15 or 20% across the board, let's look at what the costs are and how and where we can immediately intervene. Here's an example. Low birth weight. Low birth weight costs our state. In a report that just came out, actually, the Healthcare Access Report is a data book that talks about preventable hospitalizations in our state. It's an updated assessment on the cost of preventable hospitalizations. Just looking at one area that affects children, it turns out that in 1 year, low birth weight cost our state $195 million. $195 million. Now, we have 2,700 low birth weight newborns. Low birth weight children cost 10 times the cost of a non-low birth weight child. Now, here's the magic. We actually know, and the research tells us, that if you took a mom who was pregnant 3 months in advance of her delivery and made sure that she was on WIC, so she was getting proper nutrition, you would essentially close out the low birth weight problem. WIC, for those of you who are not aware, is federal dollars. It wouldn't cost us anything. So we've got here $195 million, a remedy that just means getting mothers on WIC. It will cost us nothing, it's federal money, other than improved coordination. Maybe we should do that. That's a $195 million savings. If we put $1 million more in Healthy Start now, we could help reduce the $195 million in low birth weight. So, at the most conservative, let's coordinate a low birth weight strategy and get every pregnant mother on WIC who's eligible 3 to 4 months in advance of her delivery. Let's cut out that $195 million. We at the Commission would recommend drilling down on what works, what the remedies are, low cost, no cost strategies to try to save as much as we can. And I'm not just talking dollars, but the impact of low birth weight on a child. Low birth weight affects development, cognition, social emotional skills, and is a profound coster in child outcomes. So it's a winner. There are plenty of other winners, but we need to be drilling down as a team to look at what we can do. Our agency, as you know, with the Committee on Poverty Reduction, brought in national experts, Republicans and Democrats. We brought in actually profoundly conservative people and progressives. And we said, we're only going to go with what you agree with. So anything that you don't have consensus on, we're throwing out. People thought this was pretty remarkable. It was. And we threw them in a room, and they became very close friends. They called each other from England. They worked on this. They came up with recommendations. The question was, what would reduce poverty for children? What should we do? What is clear, incontrovertible, and what will save money and reduce poverty by 50%? This was before the recession. They said education, 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 family supports. It won't work without the family supports. job training and jobs, extra income in the form of earned income tax, food stamps, housing subsidies, whatever you can do, housing, and they said support for dads. You've got to remember the dads and not think that poverty is just a woman's issue. You've got to address that. Our agency, and there's copies here, decided that we were tired of looking at the national data on outcomes and dollars invested in this and that, and we actually wanted to see what was true for our state. And actually, in partnership with the Hartford Foundation, we did a stock portfolio, and we looked at what strategies related to children were similar to what we just shared in low birth weight. What would bring $1 back or more if we kept these, and what should we focus on? And we ended up, because the data was so compelling, calling it the Children's Stock Portfolio. The interesting thing about children is that they're the only investment that keeps growing in these funny times and these odd times. And what we learned was that for every dollar invested in immunization, we save over $6, home visitation over $6, preschool $18, mentoring $3. Early reading, well, you do the math. What we know is that in our prison system, the reading level is 3rd to 5th grade for our prisoners. So we can invest in prison, or we can invest in literacy. After school, safe schools, parent engagement, all show a return our investment. So one, let's look at what we can do right now to bring in dollars like the low birth weight strategy. Let's look at where we know there's a return on investment. And let's look at federal financing possibilities where they are. We, and Senator Harris is going to speak to this if he can get out of committee, but there is a TANF contingency fund that we are eligible for. This is a fund that is a sort of toll booth that comes when a state shows that it's improved its work with poor people and improved resources for poor people. We were not eligible, 30 states were, but we asked that we be alerted by the National Conference of State Legislators as soon as we did become eligible, and resulting from an increase in signing up people for food stamps, we just got through the toll booth, and if we properly applied for the TANF contingency fund, our state is eligible right now for $53 million. FSET, the Food Stamp Employment and Training 50-50 match. Many of you in this room helped with this. Certainly Representative Kirkley-Bay helped with this. What we found was that there was a fund that our state was not accessing that would provide 50 cents to $1 for all poverty reduction planning and implementation related to employment and wage increases. And this FSET 50-50 match fund pays for GEDs, tuition, appearance if there's something that would impede your getting a job, child care while you're at school. Our state was not using this fund, didn't apply for it. Last year, we wrote a bill, the commission, and many of you helped with this, that got every vote of both houses, to take this FSET 50-50 fund match and to create a mechanism by which we would maximize this and help communities plan for poverty reduction and use the dollars for implementation and only use the dollars for research-based practice. Well, the grants that were to come out for communities, which you certainly need now, right? I mean, don't we want this in Hartford? Don't we want this in New Haven and Bridgeport and other parts of the state? That particular grant application is still in the basement in contracts in the Department of Social Services. I can guarantee you that it's worth between $1 and $3 million. That's our budget. And it's not even out of contracts in the Department of Social Services yet, just stuck there. At a time when you most need it to be implementing poverty reduction strategies. And that would help with a student in a community college, a student trying to get his or her GED. You can't double dip, so if you're on a Pell Grant, you're not eligible for this money. But if you're not getting federal dollars, 50 cents to $1 for anything related to a working poor person's educational aspirations.